Ole Miss landing only one quarterback in this recruiting cycle might turn out to be a blessing in disguise.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I am your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we talked to Coach Yo about why her 2025 squad might be her best on paper yet. And we also count down the top 5 most important specialists heading into the 2025 football season. There are definitely names you will want to keep an eye on there. But first, we look at Ole Miss potentially resetting their quarterback board for a second quarterback in the 2025 class and possibly going all in on Rees Wise. We also discussed the signal caller who's been locked in since April and what that dynamic could mean for the future of the quarterback room in Oxford. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, comment on the video. It costs nothing, but is able to keep this absolutely free. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every college or pro team is there and available for you to check out daily. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It was a weird week in quarterback recruiting for Ole Miss. There was the Bryson Beaver excitement that happened over a couple of days. There was the Luke Fahey stuff. And over the last little bit, those two players seemingly have gone off the board, although commitments, I do not put much stock in them at this point, but it does give you a roadmap of what the kid is thinking. We'll start with Bryson Beaver. Phil Knight, we talked about this yesterday, that there was a chance that Phil Knight or somebody else with a ton of money could step in. This is one of the breakout players. He honestly blew up so quickly, it was going to be tough for Ole Miss to compete with a big boy that might be desperate. I explained all of that. Oregon came in, offered him the bag, and Bryson Beaver is committed to the Oregon Ducks. The other quarterback, the one that I actually really liked for a second quarterback in this class, was Luke Fahey, the quarterback out of Mission Viejo, California. He has been crystal balled by a local beat reporter to Ohio State, and he has been crystal balled by Steve Wiltfong to Ohio State. Now, granted, we have to be real about this. There's a commitment date likely coming soon, but if he doesn't commit quickly or fairly quickly, Ole Miss still has a shot at Luke Fahey if they want him. But Ohio State and Steve Wiltfong, it's not as much of a sure thing as what it used to be. So Ole Miss has a reset in their quarterback room that they are going to have to go through regardless. They have somebody that is completely locked in. We talked about him when he committed. The moment he got a committable offer, he was going to commit. He committed, and he has been relatively locked in the entire time since, and it took his official visit this past weekend recruiting players like Paris Melvin. He is acting like the number one quarterback in this class. He is acting like somebody that comes from a pedigree of a quarterback high school like Austin Westlake. When you look at his numbers, they don't blow you away at all. He's 3-star across the board. He's a consensus 3-star. A lot of that has to do with his size. He's listed at 6'2". I would bet that it is probably a little bit below that. And wearing a number 9 on that uniform, Drew Brees was a graduate of that high school as well as Cade Klubnik, the quarterback that's at Clemson right now. They put out pretty good quarterbacks consistently. I think Nick Foles also came from Austin Westlake. Their big rival is Lake Travis. And when plays needed to be made in that game, they called number 9's number, even as a junior in high school. When you look at what he has accomplished in high school, He threw for about 2,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions a year ago. Ran the ball for about 3 or 4 yards per carry. He's not a great runner, but he is a willing runner. And willing runner is what is needed in the modern college offense. Not necessarily, you don't have to be great at it, but you do have to be good at it. He's listed as 6'2", 215 pounds, which size-wise, he's probably going to grow another couple of inches. And probably once he gets into a weight room, he's going to be 220, 225 pounds. Ole Miss will get him where they want him. But the point is, he is acting like the number one quarterback at Ole Miss, recruiting players, going through the process, doing all the leadership stuff that you would expect from a high school quarterback. And looking at exactly what he did at Austin Westlake, I mean, there were tough throws where he completed a pass while taking a hit against Lake Travis. There was seam shots down the field. There were rail shots. There was a lot of stuff offensively that looked a lot similar to what Ole Miss runs. So when you see this stuff, you're like, hey, that looks familiar. Oh, yeah, they're using the quarterback run here. Oh, they're doing some of the feign quarterback run, play action, throw the ball downfield. All stuff that we have seen Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin do over the last 5 years or so. Listen, if you look at his arm strength, doesn't blow you away. He is going to have to be somebody that survives on ball placement and being on time. If he does that and he gets really good at it, you've seen another Austin Westlake quarterback that went pretty far doing that exact same thing in Drew Brees. But he is going to have to do that and handle the leadership part of being the quarterback at Ole Miss. He needs to get to Ole Miss with the idea that he is going to next level this, that he is going to become the starting quarterback at Ole Miss. If he does that, he's going to be fine. When you look at his film, all of the stuff, he can play at the next level. And obviously, he got a committable offer from Lane Kiffin relatively early. Yeah, when you looked at elephant hunting, like Landon Duckworth was in the background, Gavin Sidwar, Luke Fahey, then Bryson Beaver, because they're always going to try to recruit more talent. But Rees Wise was already there. And you saw the photo of them whenever they came on their first visit where they looked like the most Ole Miss family in the history of Ole Miss families. It was one of those things like, yes, there is a perfect fit for what that family strives to be and Ole Miss. If he gets to Oxford, works really hard and does all that, I could see him being a starting quarterback by a sophomore or a junior. I could. AJ Maddox is on campus now. Malachi Smith is on campus now. It is hard to get a high-level quarterback to come into that room, especially with Malachi Smith already having a couple of starts under his belt. Austin Simmons potentially here for 2 or 3 years. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore in 2025. And AJ Maddox was a 4-star coming out of high school. The quarterback room is in really good shape. And Rees Wise adds another thing to that room. Listen, you're always one transfer portal away from obviously hurting for depth in the quarterback room. That's just the way of life right now. That is the reason they wanted 2 high school quarterbacks. They wanted some portal insurance. That's the reason they went elephant hunting with Ryder Lyons and Bryson Beaver and all those Elite 11 quarterbacks. That's the reason they at least had to try. But with the transfer portal being out there, none of those prospects are gone forever potentially. Rees Wise coming in, he has a chance to get a step up on whoever gets recruited for 2027 and get ready to compete with the likes of Malachi Smith and AJ Maddox, because Malachi Smith only is going to be here a couple of months, about a year longer than Rees Wise. So we'll see exactly how that goes. The fact that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss gave him a committable offer in the spring lets me know that he's the real deal, because if you look at the other quarterbacks that Ole Miss is mentioned with, they end up going to Oregon or Ohio State or somewhere where a big name quarterback would end up. So I trust that Rees Wise is just like that. Anyway, Ole Miss might avoid posting depth charts, but we're filling in the gaps. Up next, the top 5 specialists who will be the most important for the Rebels this season. You will not want to miss it. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with your friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That is exactly where Game Time comes in. It is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all of the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes all of that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Seat views in the app right up to the game, so you can see exactly where you're going to be. Listen, I think it was the 2014 Alabama game that I went to, and I thought I knew the section. You're trying to go off memory of what's going on, and you've been in there a couple of times, and you think that's right. Okay, I'm going to get those tickets, and it turns out to be a section or two off of where you thought that was. The seat views right before you buy, so you'll know exactly where you'll be, would combat that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Lowest price, last minute tickets guaranteed. Really interesting stuff, and we're doing our top 5 list right now, and we're going to get to it. This next one, though, there's a lot of guesswork involved in it because nobody is talking about the specialists potentially at Ole Miss. So when you're coming up with a top 5 list of specialists, there's a large gap of what it could be. So kickers are in there, punters are in there, return people are in there. People that make their names and their bones on special teams are in there. But I think this is a pretty good list. And if all of this happens with what's going on, they're going to be in pretty good shape. That's just my opinion on that. The first most important specialist of 2025 is Lucas Carniero. He is a kicker that comes over from Western Kentucky. He kicked 5 or 6 50-plus yard field goals at Western Kentucky, and I believe he was the Conference USA Special Teams Player of the Year last season. He comes to Ole Miss. You want a kicker to be the utmost reliable, especially if you plan on using them. Look at the Georgia game a year ago when Caden Davis made 6 field goals, I think. You couldn't necessarily punch it in the end zone, but you could count on 3 points. Ole Miss ended up winning that game because of the field goal kicker and being able to count on that. Lucas Carniero has the ability to be a 3-point guarantee whenever you get inside the 40-yard line. And whenever you look at that, if that becomes a possibility, Ole Miss is going to win a whole lot of football games in 2025. The field goal kicker is a low-key, massively important piece on the entire football team, not just specialists. Lucas Carniero is a good kicker. Now, there's a couple other names in the room for field goal kicking and place kicking and especially kickoff duties, but there are some big legs in that room. Number 2 comes our way from Australia. He is Oscar Bird. He is somebody that nobody has seen do what he is going to be asked to do. Now, he was an Australian rules professional football player in Australia at the youth level or the in-between level. I forget basically minor league Australian rules football. Somebody that can punt with both feet, somebody that can do the rugby stuff that you would be expected to. But as you saw with Frazier Messine, it took a little bit of time for him to get going. By his senior year, his last year, he was killing the ball. But it took a little bit of time to get there. We'll have to see how Oscar Bird transitions to American style football from Australian rules football and his ability to punt said football. He has a ton of talent. All these Australian rules players have a lot of control when it comes to their punts. That's the important thing to realize when it comes to these Australian rules punter. Whenever putting the ball where you want it to be, 42 yards down the field, is more important than being able to kick the ball 57 yards every time. Because if you outkick your coverage, all of a sudden that could be problematic. But you can set up your coverage very well with an Oscar Bird. Now, with the use of analytics, how much is Ole Miss going to actually punt the ball? How much of a factor will Oscar Bird be? But he is a very important piece for this team. So that's both kickers, 1 and 2. Next up, we're going to hit some return guys. And I think at punt return, Winston Watkins makes the most sense. Now, you could see a Caden Lee back there because of the sure-handedness of it. But somebody that is shifty, somebody that is quick is going to have the punt returns in the game. I think Winston Watkins is tailor-made for that role. And it depends on if he'll catch the ball consistently and not just be a fair catch machine. But Winston Watkins has a chance to be very good as a punt returner. Coming out of Venice, Florida, he was a touchdown maker. He's a former 5-star, according to Rivals.com. Winston Watkins, the relative of Sammy Watkins, has a chance to be a star in the making at Ole Miss. Remember when Elijah Moore came on campus? Winston Watkins provides a lot of that same stuff. Not all of it. It's not the pure athlete stuff that we talked about yesterday with Paris Melvin. But Winston Watkins has the shiftiness required to be in a very, very effective slot receiver, and he could be a very, very effective punt returner. We'll have to see what's going on in the fall. For kickoff return, I like Kewan Lacey. Number 4, Kewan Lacey, the running back transfer out of the Missouri Tigers. Kewan Lacey has the ability to kind of be the home run hitter in this Ole Miss backfield. Trey Hall, I think that's his name, the running back that tore his Achilles, was tailor-made for this role, but it looks like it's going to be Kewan Lacey. When it comes to the kick return, I was there in 2005 or 2006. I forget the exact year. I think it was 2006, where Dexter McCluster was returning kickoffs. And I saw Vanderbilt nearly kill Dexter McCluster. So it makes me a little bit wary of having small guys like Winston Watkins back returning kickoffs. Putting somebody back there like Kewan Lacey adds a little bit of size, a little bit of athleticism. Number 4 is Kewan Lacey. And number 5 specialist for the Ole Miss Rebels in 2025 is Zxavian Harris. And the reason he is on this list is because of his ability to block field goals. He is somebody that has to be dealt with every single time that a ball is kicked against Ole Miss. He is somebody that has made his name being a problem for teams. He is somebody that has a chance to change games by himself by blocking kicks. So Zxavian Harris becomes the number 5 rated player. It's really interesting stuff to see. When it comes to the specialists, it's going to be the kickers, it's going to be the return guys, but Zxavian Harris provides that next level that has a chance to make Ole Miss pretty good. Now, you looked at yesterday, we did a show on Paris Melvin. He's somebody that could absolutely dominate the specialist category if he came to Ole Miss. A little bit more fragmented as it sits and a little bit more like you normally are used to seeing, but Lucas Carniero, Oscar Bird, Winston Watkins, Kewan Lacey, those are 4 players that have a chance to make a big impact on special teams. And we'll see exactly how it goes. In our final segment, Coach Yo joined the show and talked about what her team looks like for 2025 and beyond. All of that is coming up next. Coach Yo was nice enough to join the show and talk about her 2025 team, International Hoops, the quarter system that the women's basketball plays in the NCAA, and not the men, with the men looking. All of that is available if you click on the link at the top of the screen to take you to the Coach Yo full interview. We're going to play a piece of it right now. Here's Coach Yo talking about the Ole Miss Lady Rebels. Lane Kiffin is the portal king. You are the portal queen, and you had the #2 transfer portal class, including a Naismith midseason nominee in Cody McMahon. Yeah. Talk about that group and what they bring to your basketball team, and if it might look a little bit different this season than it did.
Yeah, well, this is probably my most talented team on paper, for sure, and that is the support of our supporters, and then obviously our administration. But you know, on the football side, Steve, right now, like you got to have money, so our supporters really stepped up and contributed to the Growth Collective, and that allowed us to go out and bring in the best recruiting class that we've had here. Um, as from a historic perspective, when Van coached, there wasn't 64 teams. It was a different format from getting to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. So really, with this format, this was the first time, and I definitely want to be a part of that group that has gone to Elite Eight. I look at it every day. I kept it up in our practice facility just so that myself and everybody else can be reminded. But on paper, this is our most talented team. They are unique, different. We, like you said, we got star power in Cody, and then we have the Big 12 leading scorer. We have compromised 172 starts from last season, so we got a lot of talent and a lot of personality. So it should be fun.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. And one question that I have moving into it, you signed one high school senior, one high school recruit, but it was the South Carolina Player of the Year from Columbia, South Carolina. Everybody that is even a sports fan, so you don't even have to be a women's basketball fan, knows about the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah.
Tell me about that recruitment and how you were able to pull that off.
Well, we kind of bet on Lauren early, so we offered her going into her sophomore year. So we jumped on it. Now South Carolina came in at the end, and I was sweating bullets when they ended up offering her because that's hometown, and but we kind of snuck in the wee hours of the night and got that done. And and even Dawn texted me once we got her, like, "Hey, that's a great get." So really excited to have her. She's dynamic.
Now you do have some players coming back, and
Yep.
I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Sira Thienou, I think that is
Yep. You got it
correct.
right. Yep.
Came in. She's from Mali.
Yep.
She was a breakout performer last season.
Mhm.
Brantley Sanderson, who constantly covers women's basketball for me, is like, "Hey, Ole Miss has something here,
Yeah.
and you need to pay attention to her." Talk about her game a little bit and what she is going to bring to the table this year, as opposed to what she did last year.
Yeah, Sira is definitely explosive player. She really put in some work during this off season and came back looking like she's ready to have a really strong sophomore campaign. So I'm excited about her. When we got her, we did not expect her to be as impactful as soon as she has. So it was a pleasant surprise. And we had to really work hard to keep her, not because of her, just outside people trying to get in her ear and her crew's air. And even though she wasn't in the portal, but This young lady is hungry. She has a vision for what she wants to accomplish. She is committed to me and this program, and we expect her to have a really strong sophomore season. She's a future pro player.
Special thanks to Coach Yo for coming on the show. And of course, everybody that is interested in season tickets, go ahead and apply now and get those ready for this basketball season, because Coach Yo, 2 out of the last 3 years, Sweet 16s. Chris Beard, Sweet 16 a year ago. Basketball has a chance to be really fun at Ole Miss, and season tickets are your front door into the facility. So we'll see exactly how that goes. So thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal Show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everyone. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you later.